it a person or an animal or?
A good-sized man, or something that looks like a man.
Okay. You've had problems in the neighborhood before?
Yeah, my dog was killed here just recently. I don't know what it was.
Welcome to Sasquatch Hypotheses.
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sure.
See ya!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
Son of a bitch is about 6'9".
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
And the guy is on foot.
I don't know what... It's a big, real big person.
But it is a person.
Yeah, I'd say it was a person or somebody really...
Now, as far as David Paulides and Missing 411, I listened to a show the other day, which I couldn't find. I've been trying to find that show for the last probably 40 minutes. And he was talking to Art Bell, and I just got to say, I think he's done great work as far as the national forests and all of the people have gone missing and all that stuff, and he's gathering a lot of data and all that stuff. But the man kind of goes off on he's trying to sensationalize, really, I think, because he talks about how, part of the coincidences that things that he thinks is unusual is the fact that all of these people have gone missing in national parks, and when they go missing, they're always either the very first person who walks around a bend and disappears, or the last person in a hiking group who vanishes. Well, that's how everybody vanishes, because if they weren't either the first or the last, if they were in the middle, everyone would know what happened to them. So they didn't vanish, So when he's talking about, and he's making this big deal about how they walk around the corner ahead of a group, they're taking point and they vanish. Well, that's how everyone vanishes. They were out of sight for however long a time, and something happened that made them vanish. That's how everyone vanishes. That's how people vanish out in the middle of a city. That's how people vanish in the middle of a country. So he's trying to sensationalize things a little bit, and that kind of drives me a little crazy. However, the fact that these people, how they're disappearing, I think there are quite a few Sasquatch-related disappearances in his data. But I think he's trying to make a lot out of other stuff that's just regular things happening to people, that's just bad luck and that kind of stuff. And I wish he would kind of stop doing that, stop trying to sensationalize, and really focus on the stuff that really means something, that really there is something there. You know what I'm saying? Because he's just broadened the field so much. And the other thing that drives me crazy about what he says is that, he won't say specifically what he thinks. And he says, I'd rather people draw their own conclusion and stuff. Well, he's been 20 years in the police. He was a detective, and I'm sure that a good number of his, of the people who buy his books are buying them because of that. So for him to say, I'm not going to, let me see where my meter is. It looks like it's awful low. I hope you guys can hear me. Let me turn it up. So for him to say that he's not going to offer an opinion is kind of ridiculous. That's what his reputation, or his perceived reputation, is one of the things that's selling his books. And for him to say, but I'm not going to tell you what I really think, it's like what I was saying last week about, was it last week? When I was talking about people who don't want to say where things are and that kind of thing. If you really believe it and you really want to get the species recognized, then why don't you just say what you mean and get the information out there, put out your pictures, put out your videos, that kind of thing. Well, it's kind of the same thing with him. He's a cop. If he really wants to make a difference, he should state his opinion as a former cop, instead of, I'm not saying nothing, That to me just means To me, it sounds like he just doesn't want to step on toes and keep people from buying his books that would have if he'd have kept his mouth shut. You know, he doesn't want to make anyone angry. The people who believe the UFOs are doing anything, if he says something against them, they're not going to buy his book. If he says something against the people who believe in Bigfoot, they're not going to buy his book. And it sounds like he's trying to make sure he keeps it generic so he'll get as many sales as he can. And I think that's kind of a cop-out because he's on to something that's very important, and that's these disappearances. I think if he wants to, what he should do is, because he's doing a book, what is his new book? Forget the name of it. But he seems to be like he's done an East Coast book or West Coast book. I think instead he should do a book that focuses on like the disappearances that could be attributed to a Bigfoot. The disappearances that could be attributed to, being abducted by a UFO. And go at it from those angles for those books. And he's not necessarily have to say that he believes this book's right or that book's right. He's just putting forth the disappearances that have strange circumstances that would meet the criteria according to like MUFON, if he wants to talk about a UFO, or that would meet the criteria of a Bigfoot, when he's going after that book. That to me would be something that's more important, and I think he would probably do just as well, if not better, with that. But one of the interesting things that he had to say in that video, which I can't find, and I was going to play the clip for you, but for some reason that video has vanished. I actually went to, it's called David Paulides Documentaries, and I don't think that's actually his channel. I think somebody else is making money off of his name is what they're doing, but I could be wrong. Pretty sure that's where it was, but you go there, you look at the videos, and there's just hundreds of videos, all with very similar thumbnails, and you can't tell what's what. And I know it said it was in January of this year, but I look at it, and none of them have the right. Because the one I was listening to was just over 3 hours long, and the only one that I can find in that channel that's the same length, because I remembered the timestamp where I wanted to play it for y'all. It's not the same. It's not the same show, so I have no idea what the heck happened to it. But anyway, in any case, what he says is that he was talking specifically about the possibility of Bigfoot taking people, which is the first time I'd ever heard him do this, because usually he's very generic and he doesn't want to offer any opinions. This time he was asked specifically, because I guess he's one of the reasons he got into this is because he was a Bigfoot investigator, right? So he was specifically asked point blank, and he said, well, there's a good number, a large percentage of the children who disappear in these national parks and everything are females, are they're little girls. And I guess the majority of them are found dead. They've been eaten. They're found, stripped naked of all of their clothes and died of hypothermia and that kind of thing. But in any case, they're females, the majority of them. Which goes back to what I said in, I forget which one of my past shows, but I was talking about how Bigfoot seemed to be very into girls. If they're of age, then they have a sexual interest in them. And if they're younger than that, they have a food interest in them, I guess is the best way to put it. But I don't really think it's that. I when he says that he's finding these kids kids who are, if they're found alive, they're confused. They can't explain where they've been. They're found with their no clothes or parts. Some of their clothes are missing, and specifically their shoes. And there's several people out there, to include actually maybe even Paulides himself, I forget, that have put out there that the theory that the reason that the shoes are missing is because the Bigfoots can keep people, they want to keep them around to eat them later. So it's a lot easier to keep them alive and to where you want to eat them that weekend or whatever, as a for instance, and just take their shoes off because they can't get away, because they can't people can't run around like Bigfoot in places where they're going to get thorns in their feet and cut on the rocks and that kind of thing. So supposedly that's why Bigfoot takes their shoes. Which, I mean, it kind of makes sense. But it should also scare the hell out of people because it means that Bigfoot have they got a little more going on upstairs than people want to give them credit for if they think they're thinking enough about taking someone's shoes to keep them under control. I mean, that's pretty spooky. That's pretty creepy, pretty scary. And yeah. Anyway. Then there's the part where the Bigfoots are taking the kids' clothes. Now, I think that what's happening in some of these situations, some of the situations the Bigfoot wants to eat them, period. But I don't think those kids are found. I think they don't find them because they've been ate. They're gone. They've been turned into a bowel movement. But the kids who are found dead on top of logs, places where search and rescue has been searched over and over again, like Paulides says, and they weren't there before, and now they find them there. There was one situation where he talked about this little girl who was, they searched for like over a week, and on a trail where they had actually used to get in and out of the search area every single day, multiple times going in and out. They went in there one day and found a tree had been knocked over across the trail, and the little girl's dead body was over the top of the tree. Now you could say, well, what does it put you in mind of? If you have a cat, it puts you in mind of what? The cat bringing a dead bird and laying it on your stoop, right? Right, your front door. And cats do that to present you with a gift. That's why they do it. I don't think it's necessarily as a gift. I think what it is the Bigfoot feels sorry. The kid died, and they're returning it because they've been monitoring your activities, trying to find the kid. The kid's dead, so they put the kid out there so that, the people looking for her could find her. And that seems to happen a lot. Sometimes they find the kid and the kid's still alive, but majority of the time they find the kid and the kid's dead. And sometimes they don't find them until months later, and they only find their bones. And they find them, thousands of feet up in the mountains and miles away and all that stuff. I think the Bigfoots are taking them for pets. I think in some situations, and this has actually been said by Paulides in the same interview, which I wish I could find, because it's the only time he ever mentions some of these specifics, where I guess in the Indian tribes, which that some of the Indians talk about, kids being taken to be eaten, but also as sex slaves, both males and females. Most of the time it's females that they're taken to have sex with male Bigfoots, and that even males have been taken to have sex with female Bigfoots. I think that there's a lot of truth behind that. I think that it makes a lot of sense that Bigfoots are doing that. If you think back to, the guy's name just went right out of my head. I did a show about the guy who was kidnapped by a family of Bigfoot, and he was kept there for a week, and he finally escaped. I wish I could remember his name. It just went right out of my head. I honestly suspected when I read the story that this guy was picked up in order to mate with the daughter, with the young Bigfoot, the female Bigfoot. I think that was his purpose there. I don't think they were going to eat him. I think they wanted him to mate with the daughter, which, I mean, if we could find some kind of DNA evidence showing that has actually gone on, like, was it Melba Ketchum supposedly is saying that has been going on, that humans have been interbred with Sasquatch in the past over the years. If we could find out that's the truth, it would be very interesting to go down that rabbit hole and try to figure out why. Why is the Sasquatch doing that? I mean, is there a reason behind it? Why wouldn't? Is it because, if like the daughter is becoming of age to breed and the father is getting nervous, you could say because he doesn't want her hanging around the joint anymore. He's grown. Get the hell out. Find yourself a family. Maybe he's got that kind of a, an attitude. or maybe he's worried because he feels she's getting too old now, which because this guy talked about this girl was hadn't even developed breasts yet. Of course, we don't know how Bigfoots do that. He just noticed that she didn't. She was female but had no breasts. All right, so but evidently she was like as big as him or bigger. She was good size. She just didn't develop yet. So maybe the father was looking for her. She's coming of age, and he wants her to mate with a human since there are no other Bigfoots around. Maybe that was the case. So last resort, humans are a last resort food source, and we're also a last resort, mating source, for Bigfoots, I guess. I don't know. That kind of seems like it. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But I found that very interesting. And I think that there's some kind of truth to it. I don't know exactly what it is. We'd have to do a lot of research into that. That's some of the things I would like to try and get some information from people about, be able to question people who have been able to see enough of the behavior of Bigfoots for whatever reason that you can glean the kind of information that would give you some kind of hypothesis on whether they're doing that or whether they're doing it for other reasons. I do believe that they're obviously eating us. I believe that they're, like the young rogues. Well, actually, the young rogues, I think that they're after young females because they want to have sex with them, but they might want to have sex with them and then kill them anyway. But they are, some of the young rogues, they're killing people because they're eating them. And I think that that's because it's just the easiest way for them to eat. And I think that they're also killing taking females to have sex with. And as far as the other ones, the older Bigfoots, I think they're taking us for pets or because they're interested in learning more about us or something. Because it seems to be more along the lines of a pet, like, when you're a kid or when you were a kid maybe, and you're out and you're coming home from school and you run across a dog, and the dog is just all by itself. It doesn't have a collar, and you take it home because, you want to have the dog, and you ask mom, can we keep him and all that stuff. I think that's along the lines of what's going on with some of these Bigfoots. So I would love to go down that rabbit hole and get some more information so we could draw some more solid conclusions about that. Those are just my theories that I'm throwing out there right now. So anyway, I guess that's it. I couldn't find the show because I had more things I wanted to talk about. I wish I could remember what some of the other things was. I was kind of making mental notes about, what part of the show I wanted to re-listen to remind me. And, I told you I couldn't find the show. My dog's getting crazy again, sleeping or dreaming. Anyway, that's that. So where are we here on time? All right, there's 32 minutes. So for those of you who may be watching right now and you don't want to sit here and just watch me read comments and respond to them, you can go ahead and shut down now. And from this point on, I'm going to be handling the comments in the live chat. So, hello, everybody. Let me scroll back and see what y'all been talking about. I saw a lot of chatting going on. Sorry if that clicking is driving you insane. I should probably put my microphone on the other table. I'm using like TV tables to hold all my stuff. Oh, wow. Y'all really went to town chatting. Still can't get back to where I left off at. Yeah, they're cryptid hunter. Yeah, I agree with you. They're copyright infringement. But, you know, I've listened to a lot of them, and I usually start listening. I'm like, oh, well, I've heard this before. And I've noticed some of these people drives me nuts. It's like they take multiple interviews or something, and they'll like cut them together. But they're probably trying to get around the YouTube copyright algorithm. But they'll cut them up, and I'll go, well, I've heard part of this, but the rest of it sounds different, and I know it's the exact same interview, but then it changes. Like when they say we're going to commercial and they come back. Well, I think their people are cutting it and they're putting two different shows together and that kind of thing. It drives me crazy. I wish I could just, you know, honestly, I wish that somebody would stop them from doing that, because quite frankly, they're making a lot of money off of that, and they shouldn't be able to. Very old, 6+ years. Yeah, well, that was the thing. The one I was looking for wasn't. It was really recent. I could tell by the way that Art Bell was talking about it, because Art Bell had interviewed Paulides for the first time, maybe a year or two ago, something like that, and he had already interviewed him. This was a new interview about his newest book, which I can't remember the name of. And he actually he answered some questions about Bigfoot, which he had never done before. Hold on, I still haven't got back to where. Oh, yeah, there's one thing I wanted to bring up. One of the things that kept me from starting the show right away is just as I was getting ready to start the show, I got a notification that somebody had left a comment for me on the Patterson-Gimlin show, where I showed why it cannot be a fake. And this guy, this genius, sends me. He's one of those people that jumps in there. Actually, if y'all go and look at it's like the top comment right now, or the last comment that was done. He says, you know, I'm a what do you call me? Ignorant idiot or something like that, and that somebody's already proven that the Patterson was a hoax and that. So, and then he put a link to it. Well, I went and please do not go to this link unless you're going to just you know jump all over this guy about being a moron, because I went to the video and I looked at it. Within the first 2 minutes, this guy, whoever did this video, it probably is the same. It's probably the same guy who put the link in there. He's probably trying to get people to go and look at his video. But within like the first 2 or 3 minutes, he talks about who Patterson is, and then he says, and Patterson got into financial trouble. Now, bear with me here a moment, people. If you've watched my video, you know that I've shown scientifically why it's absolutely true, that it's a true film. There's nothing hoaxy about it. But this guy he's just kind of put together a whole bunch of facts that I've never heard, you know. And then the first one he gets to, he says, Patterson ran into financial difficulty when he didn't return the camera, and therefore they put a warrant or something out against him, which is true. And so he had to return the camera in order to keep from going to prison over it. And then because of that, he decided he was gonna film a hoax, and he contacted, I think it was Hieronymus or someone. No, it was Wallace. Contacted Ray Wallace and asked him, "Hey, has there been any Bigfoot sightings around?" And Ray Wallace told him to go to Bluff Creek, where he had put down fake Bigfoot prints. Now, if you know, I'm going to do this out of order, but if Patterson calls him and says, "Have there been any Bigfoot sightings?" He's calling Ray Wallace, who's doing hoaxes, expecting to get actual, real information back from him, which evidently he didn't, because this is where he put the fake footprints. This is the guy who put the pieces of wood on his feet, right? So, and then he goes out there, and that's when he films the Bigfoot, the Patty. Well, how in the hell did he film Patty if supposedly, according to this guy, he had to return the camera so he didn't go to jail, which is the thing that caused him to decide to film her to begin with, right? he didn't have the camera anymore. Well, we all know that that's not the order in which it happened, but according to this genius, that is the way it happened. That because he lost the camera, that's what made him go and decide to do the hoax. All right, and then after that, he talks about this guy that was in the Star Trek episode Galileo. That's when they had the big, monsters that threw rocks at the Galileo and Spock and them, and they were really ugly and all that. And he has a picture of one of the guys that was in his makeup, and says, "Oh, look how it looks exactly like Patty," and he kind of cuts out the face and he overlays it on the Patty, right? Well, to me, it didn't look anything like it. I mean, the only thing is, okay, he looked caveman-like, and Patty looks kind of caveman-like. That's the only thing that was the same. The lip, Patty's lip is much longer than his, and that kind of stuff. All right, but then right after that, he goes on to show Bob Hieronymus standing with the suit that was made by, I forget what it, Morrison or whatever his name is, Philip Morris, which we all know isn't even the original suit. He admits it's not the original suit. He says he lost the original suit, so he made a new replica to show everybody what it was, right? But this guy goes on to show, he shows a totally different guy who was in Star Trek and implies that he was Patty. And then right after that goes right to Bob Hieronymus and says Bob Hieronymus is holding the suit, and he was a friend of Patterson's, and he was the one who was Patty. And then he shows that, the walk thing where he's comparing. That doesn't look, they don't look nothing alike. I don't understand why people keep saying that. He doesn't walk with bent knees. I guess he thinks he does, and some people think he does, but it's not the same at all. Anyway, so I got about 4.5 minutes into this, I think it was either 10 or 13-minute video that supposedly proves that Patterson-Gimlin film is a fraud. And I turned it off. I was like, I've already got, so this is just crap. This is total crap. None of it's accurate. Not only that, whoever made the film don't have his facts straight. So y'all go over to my Patterson-Gimlin one and comment and tell this guy what a moron he is. To think that I mean, has he even watched the video he's telling there saying proves it? It doesn't even make sense. Anyway, I'm ranting, but that was one of the things I meant to talk about when it was still the show time. So, let me see. I'm going to get back to the comments here. Somebody warned Nicole about something. Let me see.